The first thing to understand is that decisions about relationships are rarely sudden. They emerge quietly, shaped by a person's inner reflection over time. When someone is making a significant decision about you, they are not simply reacting to one incident or conversation. Instead, they are replaying a series of interactions, recalling moments of connection and moments of tension, and weighing them against their personal needs and boundaries. Every relationship carries a history, and the mind naturally reviews that history when faced with important choices. Even small gestures, words, and silences become evidence in their internal assessment. They consider whether past behaviors align with future expectations, whether communication has been honest, and whether mutual respect has been consistently present. This internal weighing is neither casual nor superficial. It is an unconscious calculus of emotion, a psychological process that balances affection with self-preservation, loyalty with personal growth, and desire with discernment. During this phase, a person may appear distant, reserved, or contemplative, but these outward signs are often misleading. They do not indicate indifference. They signal deep cognitive and emotional engagement with the question of whether maintaining the connection serves both parties in a meaningful way. Every relationship is a delicate ecosystem, and when one participant is considering their role, it reflects the natural need for clarity and balance, not merely emotional whim or impulsivity. This inner evaluation often involves revisiting shared memories with a sharper lens. A person may recall moments of support, affection, and understanding, but also moments of misunderstanding, neglect, or miscommunication. These memories accumulate emotional weight over time, and the mind measures whether the positive outweighs the negative. It is not enough to love someone or to be loved. The connection must also feel safe, reciprocal, and growth-oriented. When doubts or frustrations have built up, even the strongest attachment can be overshadowed by the need for self-preservation and clarity. The decision is often guided by questions the individual may not articulate aloud. Do I feel emotionally nourished in this relationship? Am I seen and respected as I deserve to be? Does the bond encourage mutual development or maintain patterns of imbalance? These are the quiet inquiries that frame the thought process behind a significant choice. As they reflect, they may withdraw slightly, not to punish or manipulate, but to observe, analyze, and make sense of their feelings in a controlled and deliberate manner. Silence becomes their tool for insight, allowing them to distance themselves from immediate emotional impulses and approach the decision with thoughtful intention rather than reactive emotion. Understanding this process allows us to recognize that what appears as hesitation or distance is often the product of careful evaluation, a sign of someone striving to align their emotional life with clarity, meaning, and long-term integrity. Silence plays a far greater role in decision-making than most people realize. When someone is considering a major choice about you, their reduced communication is rarely a sign of indifference. Instead, it is often a deliberate pause to reflect and gain clarity. In these moments of quiet, the mind can separate emotion from reaction and evaluate experiences with greater precision. Silence becomes a mirror, revealing patterns in behavior, emotional responses, and the overall quality of the connection. During this period, they revisit conversations, gestures, and moments both large and small, seeking understanding about the depth of mutual care. They observe not only what is said but what is left unsaid, noticing how consistency, empathy, and attentiveness have manifested over time. Each pause is an opportunity for them to examine whether the relationship has grown, whether trust has been nurtured, and whether their emotional needs are acknowledged. Often, people underestimate how intensely someone may process information internally during these silent periods. They may appear detached externally, yet their inner life is active with reflection, weighing attachment against self-preservation, hope against reality, and desire against long-term well-being. Silence is not emptiness. It is a deliberate space for contemplation that allows emotional clarity to emerge and helps a person make a decision that aligns with both their heart and mind. Within this silence, the individual also tests the stability and resilience of the bond. By observing actions over words, they gauge whether the connection is genuine or superficial. Emotional reliability becomes central. They notice whether promises are consistently honored, whether efforts are mutual, and whether they feel safe to express vulnerability without fear of judgment or dismissal. In doing so, they are constructing a mental map of the relationship's potential, assessing whether it can support mutual growth or if it remains limited by recurring misunderstandings. Silence allows them to step outside the intensity of immediate emotion and see patterns that might otherwise remain invisible. The absence of constant interaction encourages reflection on personal priorities, long-term goals, and the role the relationship plays in fulfilling them. It also offers insight into how each person responds to uncertainty, tension, and the natural ebb and flow of intimacy. Rather than rushing to conclusions, they create space for thoughtful evaluation, letting the emotional truth surface gradually. This process teaches us that periods of quiet are often the most revealing moments in relationships, as they uncover the hidden dynamics and unspoken truths that ultimately shape decisions. When someone steps back into silence, it is not a withdrawal from care. It is a deep engagement with understanding, weighing the past, present, and future with the careful deliberation necessary to choose a path that honors both themselves and the connection. Emotional self-protection is a fundamental force guiding the decisions people make about their relationships. When someone is evaluating their connection with you, they often balance affection against the instinct to safeguard their own well-being. No one wishes to inflict pain on themselves repeatedly, even when care and attachment remain. When emotional strain accumulates, the desire to preserve inner peace begins to outweigh the comfort of familiarity. This process is not a reflection of diminished feeling, but a natural mechanism of self-preservation. Individuals assess whether their emotional investments are reciprocated, whether they feel understood and valued, and whether the connection contributes to or diminishes their sense of security. When repeated misunderstandings, neglect, or emotional fatigue become apparent, even strong attachment may no longer feel sustainable. At this stage, the person begins imagining life without the connection, weighing the pain of separation against the ongoing discomfort of staying. Self-protection becomes an essential lens through which they evaluate the relationship. It is a quiet, often unseen process in which each interaction contributes to their understanding of emotional safety. Awareness of this dynamic helps us recognize that difficult decisions are rarely abrupt or personal. They emerge from the accumulation of experiences that shape a person's sense of worth, boundaries, and capacity for sustained emotional investment. Understanding emotional self-protection allows us to approach this moment with empathy rather than confusion, recognizing that a person's choice is often about safeguarding inner balance rather than rejecting affection. During this phase, the mind meticulously examines patterns of behavior and communication. Every repeated disappointment or neglected need becomes a data point, influencing their sense of security and satisfaction. They ask themselves whether they can trust the bond to support growth, respect boundaries, and provide emotional stability in the long term. Emotional self-protection is not merely defensive, it is evaluative. The person considers whether the relationship encourages self-expression and authenticity, or whether it imposes stress, anxiety, or imbalance. They reflect on whether past conflicts have been addressed constructively or left unresolved, and whether the connection inspires hope or fosters ongoing doubt. Even small gestures are interpreted as evidence of care or neglect, contributing to the broader understanding of relational health. By observing patterns rather than isolated incidents, they seek clarity about whether continuing the bond aligns with both affection and emotional sustainability. This process highlights that love alone is rarely sufficient. Emotional well-being, trust, and reciprocity must coexist to create a viable connection. When these elements are absent or inconsistent, self-protection naturally guides decisions toward distance or separation. Ultimately, the drive for self-preservation shapes both timing and conclusion. People often delay decisions until they feel confident that their choice protects their emotional integrity. Withdrawal, reflection, and assessment become essential tools in this journey. This stage is not about punishment or manipulation. It is an exercise in discernment, ensuring that any continued involvement nurtures rather than harms. Emotional self-protection teaches us that difficult decisions are rarely arbitrary. They are the product of careful observation, repeated evaluation, and the deep human need for balance between connection and inner peace. Recognizing this allows us to approach relational change with understanding, empathy, and respect for the quiet, thoughtful process that underlies human choice, acknowledging that sometimes stepping back is necessary for growth, healing, and eventual clarity. One of the most powerful influences on major decisions in relationships is the vision of the future. When someone is considering a significant choice about you, they are not focused solely on the present moment. They are imagining what life will be like if they continue the connection or if they step away. The mind naturally projects forward, weighing long-term compatibility, emotional fulfillment, and personal growth against immediate comfort or desire. They ask themselves whether the relationship nurtures development or maintains stagnation. Every action, word, and reaction is filtered through the lens of potential outcomes as they try to discern whether the connection will support shared goals and values over time. This process is often invisible to the outside observer, yet it is intense and meticulous internally. They reflect on whether communication will improve, whether trust can deepen, and whether emotional needs will be met consistently in the future. Patterns of behavior from the past are examined for clues about what lies ahead as they try to predict whether challenges will be resolved or repeated. Future vision does not negate affection or attachment. It simply serves as a guide, showing whether the path forward aligns with both emotional well-being and life aspirations. Recognizing this dynamic helps us understand that decisions are rarely about a single incident. They are shaped by a projection of what life will feel like if the relationship continues or ends. Imagining the future also highlights the tension between hope and reality. The person making the decision may still care deeply, but they must reconcile affection with practicality. They consider whether promises will translate into lasting change or whether past patterns suggest ongoing disappointment. This forward-looking perspective allows them to evaluate whether both individuals can grow together or if differences in priorities, values, or emotional maturity will eventually create distance. In doing so, they examine not only their own needs, but also the impact of the connection on the other person. They ask whether the relationship encourages mutual respect, learning, and support, or whether it perpetuates imbalance and frustration. Future vision becomes a tool for insight, revealing whether the bond is sustainable in the long term or whether it risks eroding emotional stability. Each interaction is weighed not just for its immediate effect, but for what it signals about the potential for continued growth, shared understanding, and lasting trust. The person evaluates whether the present conditions reflect the kind of future they desire, and whether remaining in the connection contributes to or undermines their personal and emotional goals. Ultimately, decisions guided by future vision are deeply intentional. They reflect a desire to act in alignment with both emotional truth and long-term wisdom. The individual seeks clarity about whether their investment of time, energy, and emotion will lead to fulfillment or repeated strain. This process is not impulsive, it is thoughtful, reflective, and rooted in a desire for balance between attachment and self-preservation. Understanding the importance of future vision allows us to approach relational decisions with patience and insight. It reminds us that choices are formed not by fleeting emotion, but by careful contemplation of long-term outcomes, revealing the profound interplay between love, expectation, and the inner guidance that shapes human relationships. Recognizing this helps us see that the person deciding about you is seeking a path that aligns with both their heart and the life they aspire to live, ensuring that connection and growth coexist rather than conflict. Emotional accountability is one of the most critical factors influencing major decisions in relationships. When someone is considering their connection with you, they are not only reflecting on their own feelings, but also evaluating the shared responsibility each person has taken to maintain trust, respect, and harmony. Accountability is the recognition that words and actions carry weight, and that repeated patterns of neglect, avoidance, or misunderstanding create fractures over time. A person thinking deeply about you observes whether conflicts are addressed sincerely or merely brushed aside, whether mistakes are acknowledged and corrected, or whether blame and defensiveness dominate. This process is not about punishing the other person, but about measuring the reliability and integrity of the relationship. People naturally seek emotional environments where they feel heard, understood, and respected. When accountability is lacking, frustration and disappointment accumulate silently, even in the presence of love and affection. The individual weighs whether continuing the connection is sustainable when patterns of inattention or insensitivity remain unresolved. Emotional accountability becomes a standard against which the viability of the relationship is measured. By observing patterns rather than isolated incidents, they evaluate whether their emotional needs are met consistently and whether the bond demonstrates mutual respect. Decisions often emerge from this careful assessment, as the mind seeks alignment between emotional investment and the reality of behavior over time. Recognizing the importance of accountability allows us to approach the decision-making process with clarity and empathy, understanding that a choice to distance or redefine the connection often arises from the cumulative effect of repeated experiences rather than sudden judgment or impulse. During this reflective phase, the person measures how responsibility is shared and whether actions match intentions. They consider whether expressions of care and commitment are backed by consistent effort and whether promises have translated into meaningful change. Emotional accountability is not a rigid standard. It is a framework that supports stability, trust, and psychological safety. The individual pays attention to patterns of listening and responsiveness, observing whether their emotional experiences are respected or dismissed. Each interaction serves as evidence of either alignment or imbalance in responsibility. Silence, reflection, and observation allow them to see beyond immediate emotion and assess the overall health of the connection. When accountability is present, trust strengthens and uncertainty diminishes. When it is absent, doubts grow, and even deep affection may no longer suffice to sustain the bond. This stage is often quiet and internal, yet it is a period of profound evaluation where the person determines whether their emotional investment is being matched and whether the connection encourages growth, stability, and mutual care. Understanding this perspective helps us respond with insight and patience, recognizing that decisions about relationships are often guided by the desire for reliability and respect rather than impulse or malice. Ultimately, emotional accountability shapes both the timing and outcome of decisions. A person does not move hastily, they wait until clarity emerges from observation and reflection. Their choice is informed by repeated evidence of care, responsibility, and integrity. When accountability fails consistently, the decision to step back or redefine the connection becomes an act of self-respect and preservation. This process illustrates that relationships are not maintained by affection alone, but by the ongoing commitment to responsibility and mutual respect. Recognizing the weight of accountability in shaping choices encourages patience, empathy, and thoughtful engagement, as it reveals that major decisions are often the result of careful evaluation, inner reflection, and the quiet pursuit of emotional equilibrium, guiding both individuals toward outcomes that honor truth, growth, and stability. Fear is an often underestimated but deeply powerful force in the decisions people make about their relationships. When someone is considering a major choice about you, their mind grapples with multiple layers of fear, each influencing their perception and actions. There is the fear of loneliness, the fear of regret, and the fear of stepping into the unknown without the safety of familiarity. Even when affection remains strong, these fears create hesitation and internal conflict. They weigh the comfort of the present connection against the uncertainty of change, and this tension can delay decisive action for a prolonged period. Fear also makes people question their own judgment, wondering whether leaving or staying will ultimately bring more peace or more pain. Memories, shared experiences, and emotional investment complicate the process, intensifying the mental struggle. During this time, the person may appear distant, cautious, or contemplative, yet internally they are analyzing, imagining, and measuring possibilities. The mind creates scenarios, testing outcomes, and projecting consequences to determine the safest path for both emotional survival and personal growth. Recognizing that fear is a natural and inevitable part of decision-making helps us understand that hesitation is not indifference, but the careful consideration of what will protect their emotional integrity while honoring the connection. It is an internal dialogue between attachment and wisdom, hope and reality, courage and caution, all working together to guide a choice that balances emotional truth with personal preservation. Fear also interacts closely with hope and desire, creating a delicate tension. A person may hope for improvement, for mutual understanding, or for growth in the relationship, yet fear tempers this hope with caution. They reflect on past experiences, noting whether promises of change were fulfilled or if patterns of disappointment persist. Each decision becomes a calculation between potential fulfillment and potential heartbreak. The individual considers whether the relationship can sustain itself emotionally and practically in the long term, or whether staying risks repeated suffering. Fear magnifies the consequences of error, making the choice feel heavier and more consequential. Yet it also sharpens awareness, encouraging careful observation, reflection, and deliberation. By examining both emotional satisfaction and risk, they seek a path that honors both their heart and their mind. The interplay between fear and hope ensures that the decision is not impulsive but informed, considered, and aligned with personal needs and values. Silence, reflection, and observation become essential tools in this process, allowing them to confront fear while still remaining connected to what matters most. Ultimately, the role of fear is transformative. It forces clarity by highlighting what is truly important, prompting evaluation of whether the relationship nurtures growth, stability, and trust. Once fear is acknowledged and integrated, decisions emerge with greater intentionality and emotional wisdom. The person may choose to continue, redefine, or distance themselves, guided not by impulsive reaction but by careful discernment. Understanding the influence of fear allows us to approach this phase with empathy and patience, recognizing that decisions are rarely made lightly. They are the result of navigating complex emotions, balancing attachment with courage, and seeking alignment between what the heart desires and what the mind recognizes as necessary for long-term well-being. Personal transformation plays a profound role in the decisions people make about their relationships. As individuals grow and evolve, their priorities, values, and expectations inevitably shift, often reshaping what they seek from connections with others. Someone making a significant decision about you may have reached a point where the relationship no longer aligns with their personal development or emotional needs. What once felt sufficient may now feel limiting or unfulfilling, not because affection has disappeared, but because their internal standards and understanding of themselves have changed. Growth encourages individuals to seek authenticity, honesty, and depth in their interactions. They begin to notice when a relationship fosters mutual learning, emotional support, and stability, versus when it perpetuates patterns of misunderstanding or frustration. Transformation does not diminish the importance of the bond. It simply demands alignment between personal evolution and relational reality. Decisions formed during this stage are guided by the pursuit of emotional authenticity, as the person seeks to ensure that continuing the connection nurtures both self-growth and mutual understanding. Recognizing personal transformation in a partner allows us to see that choices are not arbitrary or punitive. They are reflections of inner progress, the natural outcome of evolving perspectives, and the need to align relationships with the person one has become. During this process, the individual observes how well the relationship accommodates change. They consider whether communication, trust, and shared experiences evolve alongside personal growth, or whether patterns remain stagnant despite the passage of time. Transformation requires flexibility and adaptability. When one person grows while the other remains fixed in prior ways of relating, tension and dissatisfaction naturally arise. The person making a decision evaluates whether continued engagement will support both individuals' evolving needs or whether the bond may hinder progress. They may reflect on whether the relationship encourages self-expression, resilience, and exploration, or whether it reinforces dependency, compromise of boundaries, or recurring disappointment. By assessing compatibility with their present and future selves, the individual determines whether staying represents harmony with growth or a compromise of their emotional integrity. Decisions are therefore rooted in a profound understanding of self and relationship dynamics, demonstrating that transformation is both internal and relational. Ultimately, personal transformation gives clarity and purpose to decision-making. The person seeks a connection that aligns with their current values, goals, and emotional capacities. If the relationship evolves with them, it can flourish, strengthened by mutual understanding and respect. If not, the choice to step back, redefine, or distance themselves becomes an act of self-respect rather than rejection. Growth demands honesty, courage, and willingness to make difficult decisions when necessary. Recognizing the impact of personal transformation encourages empathy and acceptance, revealing that relationship decisions are rarely about blame or lack of affection. Instead, they reflect the natural trajectory of evolving individuals seeking alignment between their inner selves and the bonds they maintain. Understanding this allows us to approach such decisions with insight, patience, and appreciation for the complexities of human growth and emotional authenticity. Emotional clarity is the final and perhaps most decisive factor in major relationship decisions. When someone is thinking deeply about you, they are often navigating a complex interplay of attachment, hope, fear, and reflection. Decisions rarely emerge from a single moment or isolated event. They are the culmination